How's everybody doing? Good afternoon. I cut this down. So the topic, as you can see, is the best practices for scrub seals and fog seals. So in the interest of time, I took each treatment and we're just going to go basically over the top three, what we think are the top three best practices for materials, equipment, and construction. Okay, so who's seen a scrub seal before? Okay, that's pretty good. Pretty good. I know when I first started 10 years ago, there weren't a lot of people that had seen scrub. And we were just getting started with it in Mississippi, and now we have 5-6 contractors that do it now. But all a scrub seal is just the application of a fine aggregate, a coarse aggregate, on top of a broomed layer of polymer modified rejuvenating asphalt. So you can see the old picture. It's been around for a while. Pretty crude, yeah, with the horse, but it has been around for a while. So what's the purpose of a scrub seal? Well, anybody seen roads like this before? Yeah, all over. So we're just basically doing what we call a mass crack sealer on a road, something that is really, really cracked up. We're also providing a new wearing surface on it to maybe give some friction there. And then we're also maybe using it as a combination treatment. So we could actually use it as an inner layer where we put 2 inches of hot mix on top of it. We could also put a thin lift on top or microsurfacing on top of it. So let's talk real quick about the best practices, like I said, the top three. And the first one being materials with scrub. It's real important to make sure that you have the right emulsion when you do a scrub. And so we talk about using a polymer modified rejuvenating emulsion. There are different versions of those out here across the nation. But they really, most of them, majority of them have three components. There's an asphalt component, there's a polymer component, and a rejuvenator component in that. And they all work together to basically seal these cracks and then give you enough strength to hold a rock so you can drive on top of it. So the second one is aggregate. So we just had this big kind of workshop in Mississippi about a month and a half ago, where we talked, and it was a lot of the discussion was on aggregate. And if there was ever one thing on this that I would kind of express to you, is the cleanliness of the aggregate, making sure that it's clean. There's a lot of discussion out there about dust. I've actually talked to a few people about it today, and we were looking for something in the 1.5% or less, somewhere around there. Really, really can affect your scrub seal or chip seals. The third thing is just the design. Just having a starting point of where I need to be, not only with my binder or my emulsion, but also with the aggregate as well. And so there's actually an AASHTO spec. I think it's just been given a number or a designation. It's PP91, I think, for the scrub part, and there's a PP90, I think, for the sand seal part. So AASHTO now has a document out there that will actually help you do a design on a scrub seal. So it's based on a modified Kirby method, if anybody's familiar with that. Texas uses that a lot, came out of their manual. But they also have an adjustment for the cracks out there. That was always a big thing. We could do a chip seal design, but sometimes it's really so cracked up, or I've got a wide crack, that maybe I don't take that into account in my design. So this now kind of helps us do that. So on the equipment best practices, number one, I think, is really from the get-go is the distributor setup. So when I talk about that, I mean spray bar height, nozzle size, have them angled at the right, all of them angled at the right, or put at the right angle, and then the pressure that's coming out of those nozzles. All those things have to be set up correctly, even to get started right. If you don't have that, it's really, really tough. So that is number one in my book there. Number two is just calibration. How do I make sure that what I want to do, based on that design I just ran, so if I need to put down 0.35 gallons per square yard, how do I know that that's what's going to be put down? If the computer says 0.35, I need to make sure that it's going to be 0.35. So we need to calibrate our distributor. We also need to calibrate our chip spreader to make sure we're putting out the right poundage per square yard. So very, very important. If you don't have that in your spec, that needs to be in there. Then the last thing I would say on the third thing for equipment best practices is just the broom sled itself and the condition that broom sled is in. So you can see in this picture here, the orange brand new broom head on there is clean. And that's really what we want it to look like at the start of the season, maybe at the start of the job. We don't want it to look like the other brooms, and you might not be able to tell on this slide, but they're all matted together with asphalt. Even you can kind of probably see a little bit of rock in there as well. So at the end of the day, taking care of that broom, spraying it with something to get the asphalt off, keeping it off the ground, out of the weeds, out of the dirt, it's really, really important to have a good condition or a good broom condition. On construction best practices, number one, for a scrub seal, broom setup. And I can't stress this enough on what you should do or what you should look for out in the field when you're dragging this broom behind a distributor. You can see on the, I guess it's on the left side here, we've got a picture of some broom heads that have been basically too much pressure put on them. So if everybody can notice, they're really just squished down on the pavement. So what's going to happen when I drag that broom across that emulsion? So it's going to act like a squeegee, right? And so if it acts like a squeegee and it takes all this emulsion off the road, is any of that rock going to be able to stick on the road? No, probably not. So we need to make sure that we're not taking all that emulsion off the road. So you can see a couple of the pictures on the right side there. One is from overhead. We want to make sure we got a nice wave, what we call a wave on this broom. And there's multiple places where this wave takes place. Not only on the front, which is pretty evident there, you can see, but there's also a big pool or a big wave in the center of this broom sled as well. And that actually gets it moving around so it fills some of those longitudinal cracks. So we have that pool in the middle, and then we need to have a wave on the back as well. So there's really three places where we have a lot of emulsion that is moving back and forth and filling those cracks. So you can see on the bottom right there, the kind of the proper setup of a broom where it's just really, I heard somebody say this the other day, just tickling the emulsion. It's just kind of pushing it just gently into those cracks. Here's a little picture we took, I think these come from Oklahoma, where they actually went out and did some cores of a scrub seal. And then you can see, and they put a little tape measure up, we were going down about 1 inch into these cracks. And that is the importance of that broom. If you haven't stopped by the booth over there at the reception, I'm taking it we're going to be over there, we have a couple of cores over there that are split open, and it shows you what a chip seal would look like and what a scrub seal would look like. And the effect of that broom pushing that emulsion down into those cracks. It's pretty dramatic. Here's another picture. It's split open, and you can see that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to push this emulsion down in a crack so that we can soften up the asphalt around that crack and then seal it. So number two, and this probably goes for chip seals or scrub seals, is the weather. So the more time, we see more problems than not, early season work, late season work. Okay? And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that as well. So weather is the number one of the, I'd say two, because the broom is pretty important on the scrub seal. But number two's got to be the weather. And you know, this picture here shows you the difference between what it could be in the sunshine and what it could be in the shade on that same project you're doing. So making sure that not only the air temperature, but the pavement temperature is at the right temperature in order to do the work. And that varies from state to state. I know like in Mississippi it's 70 degrees and rising. It might be 60 degrees and rising where you're at. Okay? But weather is very, very important on the best practices. And then application rates. Just being out there as they're doing the job, verifying that your calibration is continuing to be right and that you're getting the right poundage down, that you're getting the right amount of gallons all the way